Hey guys, welcome back to the Engineered Angler. You remember this lure from last time? This is our little spy bait that we made from cherry wood in the last episode that I drew up on the board and gave you all the dimensions and a lot of my techniques for getting this hardware in there. And right now I've got the propellers and the hardware covered up because I'm working on finishing the lure. We're going to put a nice paint job on it, but first I need to finish working on the foil work. I put a mask on it, but for the rest of the body, I want to put foil scales. Let me show you. So putting on foil scales is pretty simple. You just have to cut these little strips of fish scale shapes. And you can see I've already applied a bunch of them here. And you just stick them on there, making sure that you offset them a half scale every time. So you get that kind of roof shingle look. And you just cut off the excess on both ends. And then you take something round and smooth to get it all smoothed in and shaped so there's no wrinkles. And the way I cut them is by using these scalloping scissors, and I think these are 5mm. First you cut in the scallop shape, and then with standard scissors you just cut off the strip and you end up with your little line of scales. And this is what it looks like when you're getting close to being finished. I still have to do the other side and the tops. And I'll get back to you when I've got this thing pretty close ready to be painted. All right, I've got it fully clad in its new skin, so I'm pretty happy with that. Now what I want to do is I want to spray some like a dark gray color on it and wipe most of it off just so it leaves a little bit in the scales, so it gives it more of a 3D, gives it a deeper look. And you might notice I've taken off the protection from the propeller. That tape and stuff was just a little more trouble than it was worth. I'll figure out something else when I do a full paint job. So I'm going to use this Createx transparent black, although it's really not very transparent. It's pretty much opaque. I don't know why they call it transparent, but it puts a nice dark color down. And my idea is that I'm going to only have it just above the center line, a little bit on the face. That'll give us a good look. I'll spray from the back forward, trying to get under those scales. And now with a little bit of alcohol on a rag here, I'm just going to wipe off most of the surface stuff. Wiping in the direction of the scales and leaving those little dots, making it look just a little more realistic, a little deeper. And I'll clean the paint off the props and the beads and stuff a little later. All right, I kind of like the look. I'm going to go ahead and put a very thin clear coat over everything, and then we can do the final paint job. All right, I've got the clear coat on there, and I'm going to let this thing set for at least a couple of hours because I have been having some issues with the really thin coats setting up well in a short time, so I'm going to let it go for about 2 hours. All right, I'm liking how it's looking. I want to put some longitudinal stripes on this thing, just 2 on the other side. And what I'm using to form the stripe is this really thin piece of silicone. It's just some old leftover stuff that I poured out on a piece of glass and it set really thin. And I just cut a really thin slice through it so it would create a slot for me to paint the stripe through. And what's nice about this is that you can create as wide or as thin a stripe as you want to, and this thing will settle in place, and it'll stay as open or as closed as you want to. Just have to have a little bit of patience getting it set up. I let the mid coat dry for about an hour, and now it's time to put the clear coat on it. And I've got to be real careful around the propellers so I don't get them glued together. And I'll put it in the chamber and let it turn without the light on for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then I'll turn the lights on and let it cook. And after getting it out of the UV chamber, I wanted to weigh it. 30.27 grams. Our target weight was 28, so we're definitely a little bit heavier. And still, I think the sink rate is just about right. That's less than a half a foot per second. All right, guys, we've got her ready to go. And it was a little bit of a pain getting over here on the lake because there's a huge tournament going on and everybody was piling into the ramp to get out because they're doing their awards. That means this lake has experienced about 6 hours of a lake equivalent of a gangbang. So this thing probably is not going to give up anything, but we're going to go ahead and get some underwater shots of this and see how it looks. And I was planning to do this out in the salt water, out on the Gulf, but the weather has been rough, man. It's been storm front after storm front, and I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but we've got a big squall coming this way. So that's the way the coastline looks. There's no reason to get over there. So let's hope we got a little time and we get the footage we want. Well, I hope I got some good shots of it underwater. It looks really sharp. And it cruises nice and straight, very little body movement. That's really what I wanted. If I want body movement into it, I can add a little bit with the rod tip. This way, in salt water, it'll just be a really steady movement. I can pause it and it'll sit in that salt water pretty suspended and only sinking slowly. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do some fishing until that rainstorm comes, and maybe we'll catch something, maybe we won't. Let's see what happens. It's nice to have my trolling motor working again. I had to rebuild this thing almost from the ground up. Well, luckily the motor was good, but all the electronics were shot. I'm just gonna work along the edge near the docks. I'm sure this has all been absolutely overworked all this morning. Maybe the cloud cover will get them a little active again. Oh man, I just casted it right into the grass. I'm letting it drop close to the bottom and just slow reeling. Of course, the bottom drops off really quickly on this lake. So it'll be 2 to 3 feet, maybe 20 feet from the shore, and then drop down to about 12, 15 where I'm at. So obviously I can't follow that contour. This thing has such a nice flash, even in this kind of hazy day. I think in the salt water, it's really gonna kill. So I'm gonna go ahead and just like roll it, pause it, let it sink a little bit, twitch it a little bit, roll it slow, pause it, let it sink. Well, with the exception of this one hit, I was basically skunked. But I kept fishing until the rain got me and it was time to go. But if you guys are still jonesing to see more lure builds, I'll go ahead and put a playlist right here up on the screen so you guys can click on that and get your fill of builds. I'll see you guys on the next video.